chamber to the people. Let the voices ring. Laws are made. Debates take the wing.
I know we are going to be reposed with responsibilities.
Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Watch the Senate and the House of Representatives, where decisions flow. The Parliament, the place to know. The Parliament, see power at play. The Parliament, your window into democracy at work, only on Global Television. Hello and welcome to your parliamentary program, The Parliament, which deliberates on legislative policy. I am Anieti Patrick. The National Assembly has resumed plenary sitting after over 2 months from its recess. At its first proceeding after the 2 months, both the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajudeen Abbas, welcomed members. The both read the letter from the President, Bola Tinubu, on the request for the resolution of the National Assembly to implement new external borrowing in the 2025 Appropriation Act, refinance maturing Eurobonds, and issue a debut sovereign sukuk in the international capital market. Both legislative leaders noted that the purpose of this letter is to seek a resolution of the National Assembly in pursuance to the provisions of Section 21, Subsection 1 and Section 27, Subsection 1 of the Debt Management Office Establishment Act 2003. The President stated that the facility would be accessed through any of the following channels in the international market: through issuance of Eurobonds, loan syndications, bridge finance facility from book runners, and direct borrowing from international financial institutions.
The letter from Mr. President reads as follows. He said, the Right Honorable Speaker requests for the resolution of the National Assembly to implement new external borrowing in the 2025 Appropriation Act, refinance maturing Eurobonds, and issue debut sovereign sukuk in the international capital market. The main body of the letter reads as follows. The purpose of this letter is to seek a resolution of the House of Representatives pursuant to the provisions of Section 21, Subsection 1, and Section 27, Subsection 1 of the Debt Management Office Establishment Act 2003. The new external borrowing of $1,843,669,786 kobo, which is equivalent to $1,229,113,000 at the budget exchange rate of $1 to 1,500 naira in the 2025 Appropriation Act for the part financing of the budget deficit.
Here, I want to thank the President for taking time to go through each and every bill that we sent to the executive. This is very, very impressive because it means that the executive took time to go through clause by clause. And so we will do justice to all the observations put forward by the President.
The Nigerian Parliament is taking a firm stance against what it describes as misleading international narratives portraying the country as unsafe for Christians. Lawmakers rejected the narratives that frame Nigeria's security crisis as a singularly religious conflict or a state-sponsored persecution, and reaffirms Nigeria's constitutional protections for freedom of religion and belief. This was the position of both the Senate and the House following motions raised under matters of urgent national importance moved by Senator Ali Ndume, representing Borno South, and the Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu.
Concerned about the increasing circulation, both domestically and internationally, of the narrative alleging an ongoing Christian genocide in Nigeria, amplified by some advocacy groups, foreign media, and religious networks. Also concerned that such narrative, though often arising from genuine concern, risks oversimplifying Nigeria's security challenges, deepening sectorial suspicion, and creating negative perception of the country in the international community. Note that Nigeria continues to face insurgency, terrorism, banditry, communal violence, and criminal attacks, which have tragically claimed the lives of both Christians and Muslims.
The Speaker of the House is concerned that external legislative action based on incomplete or decontextualized assessment risks undermining Nigerian sovereignty, misrepresenting facts, straining strategic relations, and unintentionally emboldening violent actors. Mindful of Nigeria's long-standing partnership with the United States as our ally, especially on counter-terrorism, human rights, democratic governance, and interfaith dialogue, the African Union's emphasis on tolerance and inclusive societies.
Other lawmakers in their contributions supported the motion, stressing the need for a balanced understanding of the crisis and on the urgent need to correct what they termed as a false and dangerous narratives about religious persecution in Nigeria.
We need to understand the tactics and the practice of the terrorists. And we must now engage the executive about counter-terrorism, because the argument is that most of the launch counter-terrorism approach are not sufficient enough to actually engage the terrorists. The summary of my submission is that unless we can place in proper perspective the strategy of the terrorists, it will be difficult, Mr. Senate President, unless we engage knowledge and know the strategy of the terrorists. It will be difficult for us to actually suggest what counter-terrorism strategy that you engage to get this thing out of us.
Fresh in our mind, in 2014, when a terrorist bombed Jumat mosque in Kano, where over 250 people died. We have all the documents with us, and I think as a parliament, we must take a position and we must join hands with the government to inform the US and the US Congress that the position they are taking is not in tandem with the reality of what is going on. And we condemn criminal acts, we condemn terrorists, we are not in support of them, and we will do everything possible to make sure that we have a peaceful Nigeria.
Unfortunately, where I come from, there's no church that was ever banned. People killed in Sokoto and Paraka, not all of them are Muslims and not Christians. This investigation, Mr. President, cannot be allowed to continue as it is. We must take decisive steps to ensure that we readdress the reality of what is going on in Nigeria, that the global community will have true education of what Nigeria is and what Nigeria should be.
Senate, it is our conviction that the insecurity problem, the insecurity challenge in Nigeria is not religion-driven. And having said that, as a resolution on the basis of our discussion here, that we will now step down further consideration of this motion, especially the prayers, till the next legislative day, which is Tuesday next week, when we can have our executive session.
The main problem here comes from one, those who deliberately demarcate Nigeria outside the country, including Nigerians, for a variety of reasons. Two, gross misinformation deeply embedded in the nature of the American educational system. In other words, for many of the children, many of the parents, even some legislators, still look at Nigeria with the eyes of the 1950s and 60s.
Like the leader canvassed, that it is a deliberate attempt to damage Nigeria's image, to cause problem in this country. And because the motion presented by Mr. Deputy Speaker is investigative in nature, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't want to dance into the arena as much. I support and I concur that this investigation should be thoroughly carried out. And our leaders in the Senate too should also do the same, so that we're on the same page.
Mr. Speaker, this is the moment that this Parliament should re-engineer its parliamentary diplomacy. We must re-engineer our parliamentary diplomacy and pursue this matter through the parliamentary process of the US system. I don't know whether this country is having a lobby or lobbyist on the Capitol. It is traditional. Countries like Nigeria is a country of interest to the US.
Nigeria cannot afford to avoid global politics. Just like my honorable senior colleague alluded, Honorable Sada Soli, that what we are seeing here is global politics, and we cannot shy away from it. It is not enough to say we are being targeted as a country, but we must put in place the necessary machinery to fight a cause like this. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, I don't think Nigeria has an ambassador to the United States. As we speak, I don't believe Nigeria has a permanent representative to the United Nations.
We are facing a situation whereby these terrorists are trying to terminate the lives of Nigerians, and then, of course, frustrate us from going into the farms, producing food to feed ourselves. So this discussion will be better in a closed session, and I think at the end of the day, we should actually have a small team that should visit our colleagues and also put the other side, because some people must have gone there to give a one-sided story. And at the end, it will now look as if only Christians are being killed by terrorists in Nigeria. But I can tell you that a lot of Muslims have lost their lives in the last 5-10 years.
It will be recalled that on September 9, 2025, a bill titled the Nigerian Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025 was introduced in the United States Senate, seeking to require the U.S. Secretary of State to designate Nigeria a country of particular concern, aiming to impose sanctions on Nigerian officials under the Executive Order 13818 and related authorities. Meanwhile, during the plenary proceedings on Tuesday and Wednesday, both chambers of the National Assembly swore in newly elected lawmakers as substantive legislators. These senators include Joseph Ikpe and Emmanuel Nwachukwu, representing Edo Central and Anambra South senatorial districts. In his remarks before the oath taking, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, welcomed the lawmakers to the chambers and the dignitaries that accompanied them.
I will strive to preserve the fundamental objectives and direct principles.
The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, welcomed the lawmakers to the chambers and the dignitaries that accompany them. He admonished the lawmakers to carry out their functions as nationalists and not only as ambassadors to their senatorial district. Akpabio asked that 2 books be given to the newly sworn-in senators: the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the standing rules of the Senate to guide their legislative work.
You are no longer a senator of your political party. You are a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Once you step into this chamber, you drop your party outside and come in here as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with the intention of carrying out and contributing to debates and other functions here as a nationalist.
Meanwhile, in the House of Representatives, the Speaker had sworn in 4 new members, namely Omosede Igbenedion Edo, Felix Bagudu Kaduna State, Mukhtar Rabiu Jigawa State, and Adeshola Elegbeji, APC of the Remo Federal Constituency by election in Ogun State.
Fourth of a member of the House of Representatives. I, your names, do solemnly affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria
Let's take a breather here, and on the flip side, we'll look at more unfolding of legislative proceedings before its adjournment to Tuesday. Welcome back. Again, at the Senate has called for immediate and comprehensive federal government intervention in Kwara South Senatorial District following a motion of urgent national importance moved by Senator Ashiru Oyelola Yisa, Kwara South. Our correspondent, Topsy Gimba, has the details.
Concerned that at least 142 persons have been kidnapped and over 70 killed in the last 12 months across Kwara South, with no fewer than 25 communities deserted due to recurring attacks, leading to severe human displacement and disruption of social and economic life. Farms have been abandoned, roads have become unsafe, local economies are completely paralyzed, and schools have closed, thereby worsening poverty and increasing youth vulnerability to crime.
No one can downplay that men in uniform and women in uniform are fighting hard to protect us. We just need to urge them to refocus, to re-strategize.
Once we strengthen our government system, we have had a pathway to fighting insecurity. Our grassroots are where these criminals come from. So every effort must be done to strengthen the machinery of government at the grassroots.
Progress is being made. There is a renewed resurgence. We need this Senate to tell the armed forces to be reporting progress every week so that state by state, otherwise it will be a mess of all issues and we will not be seeing progress.
The trajectory of the movement of insecurity in this country, if not nipped in the bud, has the potential of consuming the whole country.
Decisive, go in there and do their best in dealing with the situation. It is sad, particularly those who are kidnapped as we speak. I think the first thing is to try to get them rescued.
The House of Representatives has also directed its Committee on Basic Education and Examination Bodies to investigate the financial activities of the National Examination Council, NECO, from 2023 to 2025. The motion, sponsored by Amobi Oga, came under matters of urgent public importance. In the same vein, the House has also summoned the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabo, and heads of relevant agencies to appear before the ad hoc committee to investigate all funds allocated and expended under the Electric Power Sector Reform Program from 2007 to 2024, a period covering the new repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 and its successor, the Electricity Act of 2023. Oga expressed concern over alleged irregularities in NECO's budget implementation, internally generated revenue, and the reported use of veriments without legislative approval. He reminded the House that Sections 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution empower the National Assembly to summon any government agency and demand full accountability. Following deliberations, the House resolved to mandate its Committee on Basic Education and Examination Bodies to investigate NECO's financial performance and bank records from 2023 to date and report back within 3 weeks.
The House is worried that NECO is allegedly implementing its vehement without the required legislative approval. If this is so, it is a flagrant violation of our Constitution and inherent powers of this Honorable House.
In another development, the House of Representatives has resolved to conduct a comprehensive forensic audit of Nigeria's power sector reform program, spanning nearly 2 decades, to determine how trillions of naira in public funds were utilized. A motion sponsored by Basi Ekpenyo of Cross River State came under matters of urgent public importance at plenary. He expressed concern that despite repeated interventions, loans, and budgetary allocations over the years, the country continues to grapple with erratic electricity supply and poor infrastructure. They mandated an ad hoc committee to investigate all funds allocated and expended under the Electric Power Sector Reform Program from 2007 to 2024, a period covering the now repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 and its successor, the Electricity Act of 2023.
The House resolved to invite the Minister of Power, the Managing Director of Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, heads of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Royal Electrification Agency, and other relevant stakeholders to appear before the committee.
Ministers and heads of relevant agencies have been summoned to appear before the committee, which is to submit its findings and recommendations within 12 weeks for further legislative action. More so, the House of Representatives has joined the global community to commemorate the International Day of the Girl Child, reaffirming Nigerians' commitment to empowering girls as agents of change. Marking the 2025 theme, The Girl, I Am, The Change I Lead, Girls on the Front Lines of Crisis. Lawmakers urged the federal government to prioritize education and skills development for girls, particularly those affected by conflicts and emergencies. Coming under a motion of urgent public importance by Kafilat Ogbara, APC Lagos State, lawmakers emphasized that empowering girls is not only vital to their own future, but the peace, progress, and sustainable development of the nation. The House therefore called on security agencies to strengthen protection mechanisms against violence and exploitation, while mandating the Ministry of Women Affairs to create safe spaces and provide mental health support for girls. The Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development was directed to ensure compliance with these resolutions.
Call on the federal government to prioritize education and skills development for girls, especially in crisis-affected communities.
In another development, the House resolves to set up an ad hoc committee composed of members drawn from the committees on petroleum resources, upstream and downstream, public accounts, anti-corruption, finance, and legislative compliance to investigate funds appropriated and disbursed for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries between 2010 and 2024. ascertain the status of the refineries, examine how public funds were utilized, and identify agencies responsible for infractions or mismanagement and report within 4 weeks for further legislative actions.
The House resolves to 1. Constitute an ad hoc committee composed of members drawn from the committees on petroleum resources, upstream, midstream, and downstream, to investigate all funds appropriated and disbursed for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries between the year 2010 and 2024.
The House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to provide for the creation of Ibadan State with Ibadan as the proposed capital city and for related matters, HB 2439. The motion was moved on the floor of the House by the member representing Ibadan Northeast, Ibadan Southeast Federal Constituency, Oyo State, Adigun Adekunle.
Ibadan, as it is today, the size, landmark alone, is about 25,000 plus square meter. Why the whole southeast region, they have 5 states today, they are about 33,000 square meter. In terms of population, we have what it takes to be a state.
The House, however, adjourned proceeding to Tuesday, 14th October after considering 4 bills for third reading. At the committee level, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Illegal Mining has vowed to tackle the menace head-on and recover billions of dollars lost annually to the activity. The committee says illegal mining remains a major threat to Nigeria's economy, environment, and internal security. At the inauguration of the Ad Hoc Committee in Abuja, Chairman Sani Abdurrahim declared that Nigeria can no longer afford to lose an estimated $9 billion every year to illegal mining operations. He said the committee will work to block revenue leakages, enforce transparency, and ensure that all proceeds from the country's mineral resources are properly accounted for.
It is estimated that Nigerians lost approximately $9 billion annually to illegal mining activities. This theft of our resources that should be enriching our nation has gone on for too far a long time. It is time to put an end to it. Our mission is very clear. It is to block these revenue leakages.
The lawmaker emphasized the need for stronger interagency collaboration and tougher enforcement measures to sanitize the sector. Delivering a goodwill message on behalf of the Commandant General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Assistant Commander of the Corps, Atta Onoja, said the mining marshals established in March 2024 have made significant progress.
Just 3 weeks ago, we secured convictions, and all these are efforts geared towards ensuring that we demarcate illegal mining activity in Nigeria. Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps as an agency is assuring this honorable committee of our maximum cooperation, maximum support where necessary.
To regularize their operations with relevant agencies, a development the House Committee says it will build on to ensure accountability and sustainability in the mining sector. With the committee now set to begin investigations, expectations are high that Nigeria may finally stem the losses and restore order to its mining industry. And that's the much we can take on this edition of the program. See you next week on the Parliament on Global Television, Channel 365 on DSTV and 276 on Star Times. To stay connected, kindly follow us across all our social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG. Thank you to all my production team. Until the next time, I am Annie T. Patrick. Bye for now.